Welcome in episode 20 of Uncaged Sports Talk. I'm Luke Saranka. Here on this episode, it's going to be a shorter episode this week. It's been tired today, been tired this week with the holiday season coming up. Next week, I'll make it a good episode as we got Christmas football games coming up, New Year's football games coming up as the end of the season kicks into full gear. Fantasy football playoffs in the second round of the 3 rounds. So a lot to talk about next week. Probably have some people from maybe my fantasy league on. I was gonna have a Cowboys fan on as a guest this week, but I had a lot going on today and just decided to do this solo so I could keep it shorter. I will not be going over Luke's list on this episode. I'll post that on social media and my NFL power rankings, and I will not do Luke's locks on this episode. I'll post that on social media as well tomorrow or today when this comes out, so people can see my locks before they place their NFL bets. So there is that. Without further ado, though, we got to talk about it. The Eagles. The Eagles got beat down for a second straight week. I'm at the point though I flushed it. There's a lot of Eagles fans who think the sky's falling, who say the team's going nowhere. I don't think that's the case. But this team, sorry if you guys hear background noise too. My cousin just walked in, but the sky's not falling, but they need to get this right fast. What helps is you got some get right games coming up against Seattle, the Giants, Cardinals, and Giants. Every team so far this season has had these stretches. The Niners had a 3-game losing streak. Granted, they didn't have Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel, but I don't want to hear those excuses either when the Eagles beat the Bills without Lane Johnson and Dallas Goedert. Every team has had these stretches where they has had these rough patches, and then they had some get right games here and there. After the 3-game losing streak that the Niners had, they went on a 5-game tear and have been great ever since. The Cowboys, they had the loss to the Cardinals and then lost to the Niners shortly after. They have been great ever since. They got some cupcake games. They were able to get their confidence back, and they were able to get rolling heading into this past Eagles Cowboys game, Eagles Cowboys game on Sunday, and it led to a blowout. The Cowboys are more ready. The Eagles have been in a rough part of their schedule for weeks now. 5 straight games against teams that are going to wind up in the playoffs. Against top teams in the NFL. 5 straight games against top teams in the NFL. Against top 10 NFL teams. And another one coming up against a top 15 team. They've had to deal with a hell schedule. And it doesn't help that the Niners were on 10 days rest and the Cowboys were on 10 days rest, which made it even harder on the Eagles, considering they went through a brutal stretch. And they went to overtime with the Bills before they had to go up against the Niners the week after. It's not a recipe for success. Now, that is not any excuse for them. They've been playing pitiful. Now I'm going to criticize the Eagles. I just gave reasons why to a degree. I could see why they fell flat. But the offense needs to be better. A lot of people are saying the defense sucks, the defense this, the defense that. Yeah, the defense hasn't been good. But I've been saying all year long, especially on this podcast, you can win with an average defense in today's NFL. You can win with an average defense in today's NFL. Look at the Chiefs last year. They won the Super Bowl with an average defense. Below average to average defense. The Eagles can get by with their defense. But you need the offense to put up 30 points a game. You need the offense to do their job. If the offense scores, it also makes the defensive job easier by keeping them off the field, putting them in more advantageous positions where they can more just rush the passer and just focus on rushing the passer. Because if you get a lead, it can make other teams one-dimensional. That's why the Niners are so great. Once they get a lead, They just pin their ears back and rush the passer, and then they get into their play action game and rushing game with Christian McCaffrey. If you get a lead, it makes your defense's job easier. The offense needs to be a lot better. The turnover from Jalen Hurts was deflating. The play calling's been very bad. The leak out of the locker room, that just can't happen. Sirianni, like, I don't know why you aren't how you just let that slide. That cannot happen as a coach. You can't have leaks out of your locker room. That's how you sink a ship. That's how it can sink fast. The team could fall downhill fast because of the leaks out of the locker room. For people that don't know what I'm talking about, Derek Gunn, a longtime Eagles reporter, he's been close with Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham was the initial person I thought of that may have said it, but I guarantee it wasn't Brandon Graham. But them leaking to Derek Gunn that there's been bad drought combos, bad play calls, like it's just a vanilla offense, predictable offense, is not good. Just go to the coach and say that if you think that the routes are slowly developing. That's what the coach said. It was that the routes are slowly developing. You don't say that to a media member. You go to the coach and say that. When you say that to a media member, it shows bad culture. That's my biggest worry with the team. Back to the offense, though. The offense is very vanilla right now. A lot of short passes, a lot of trying to do bullshit screens to Julio Jones. He didn't get him as much recently because on Sunday it all went to Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, and Goddard. But it's just a very offense right now. They need the offense to be better to help out the defense. A good offense makes the defense that much better. The defense wouldn't look half as bad if the offense was able to put up 30 points a game and the defense could hold another team to 21. Like last game against the Niners, you had 2 red zone trips early. You could have won up 14-0. That's a completely different game. Makes your defensive job that much easier because it makes the Niners one-dimensional. Takes the Niners out of what they like to do. And then with the Cowboys, this past week, you had 3 turnovers. You cannot win in you can't win in any NFL with 3 turnovers. That's putrid, pitiful. 3 turnovers you're not going to win with. They were moving the ball too. They were moving the ball fairly well, but when you turn the ball over, especially when you get close to in the red zone, you can't have that. Your offense failed you. The best part of your team failed you. The Eagles need to get the offense right, and I think they can be fine. I think they will right the ship. With the Seahawks coming up, I think they're going to win that. I don't need style points against the Seahawks. Find a way to win it. They haven't won in Seattle since 2008. Just find a way to get to win. That's all I need. Just find a way to get to win. After that, though, against Tommy Cutlets, you need to blow that man out. Tommy DeVito, you need to blow out Tommy Cutlets. You need to blow him out. You need style points in that game. You need style points against JG, Jonathan Gannon, and Kyler Murray and the Niners on New Year's Eve. You need style points week 18 against the Giants, that second straight game against them. You need style points in those games to gain your confidence back and to get yourself rolling into the playoffs. Or you're in deep trouble when you play the Niners or Cowboys again. There is no way, though. There is no way. I don't see it happening at all. You gotta that the Giants or Cardinals beat you. You can't let that happen either. If that happens, season over. You gotta blow out those teams. You gotta beat the Giants by 10 plus, even more, 14 plus. Cardinals by 10 plus. And like I said, you can't let Tommy Cutlets beat you. Tommy DeVito beat you. You can't let that dude beat you. It's like he seems like someone out of a movie. Like, you can't let Tommy Cutlets is the nickname that's going around for him. Did you guys see his agent? His agent looked like a typical Italian, but Tommy Cutlets. You can't let him beat you. Like, it's just crazy right now. You got everything right in front of you as if you're the Eagles. You got to find a way to get the job done and get into the playoffs on a hot streak. I'm gonna before I transition, I'm gonna give my pick for this week. I've been giving my picks for the last few weeks. On the show 2 weeks ago, I picked the Niners. Last week, I picked the Eagles. I'm gonna pick. Also, before I give this pick, I want to put out there, even though I picked the Eagles last week, I do have screenshots of a month ago. I predicted the Eagles to go 4-2 in this stretch. I predicted them to go 4-2 in a stretch. All season long, I predicted them to go 4-2 in this stretch. And all season long, I was saying the Chiefs, I think they'll beat the Chiefs because that'll be a revenge game for us. But then they'd lose to the Niners because the Niners will want that more. They obviously did. And they'd split with the Cowboys. If you expected to sweep the Cowboys, you had another thing coming. The Eagles lost to the Niners last week. Swayed my opinion on that Cowboys game. And I was wrong. I can admit that. But in the beginning of the year and for most of the year, I thought we would split with the Dallas Cowboys. And that's what happened. It's rare that we sweep them. And we haven't even won in Jerry World since 2017. That place has been a house of horrors for the Eagles. Now, for my prediction, before I get into some other stuff to wrap up the show, as we're keeping this as a short episode, the Eagles go into Seattle on Monday night, and the offense gets right. The Eagles beat the Seattle Seahawks 27-23. Eagles get the offense right, and then the next 3 weeks, they roll heading into the playoffs. And then hopefully you get a Niners Cowboys matchup. Those two teams play each other before you have to play one of them. And they beat up on each other when the playoffs come around. And then you pick apart the scraps of whoever wins that game in the playoffs. But that's a few weeks from now. Eagles beat the Seahawks 27-23. And then they roll over Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, and Jonathan Gannon. And then Tommy DeVito again. They roll over those three teams, and they beat the Seahawks by 4 on Monday Night Football. Gonna transition real quick before I get into some baseball. Gonna transition to NFL MVP talk. I wanted to discuss this because I've seen some stuff about Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts has kind of fallen out of the race. I don't think he can win it at this point anymore. I'm just debating on when to cash out. Probably going to wait until after they beat the Seahawks and cash out next week. But it's right now between Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy. I actually think someone else is going to wind up coming into the race. I'll say that in a second. But I want to discuss the three people that are at the top of the list right now. Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the main person I want to discuss. He's not even the MVP of his own team. I see Niners fans saying he should have won the award. He's not even the MVP of his own team. Christian McCaffrey is the MVP of that team. He makes a bigger impact to that team than Brock Purdy. And I have stats to back that up. I have some advanced stats on Brock Purdy that shows he's kind of carried. He's a good QB. I'm not taking that away from him. He's a really good QB. But he's not a most valuable player of the NFL. He's not even the most valuable player of the Niners. You take Christian McCaffrey off the Niners compared to taking Brock Purdy off the Niners, they have a bigger drop-off without Christian McCaffrey than Brock Purdy. I'm going to provide you guys the stats, and then I'll show you guys the stats for Hurts and Dak Prescott on the topic. So for Brock Purdy, this is eliminating the yak yards that his receivers and running backs get. Brock Purdy, 15th in air yards per attempt. He's 17th in money throws, which money throws show if it's a good throw or not, like really good throw on a money in a big spot. He's 17th in money throws. 4th in receiver target separation. So his receivers are getting open. 4th best in the league. 2nd in game script. Game script is, for people that don't know, like if how the game's going, if it's an advantageous game script that bodes well towards your offense. And they have a good game script that makes Brock Purdy's job easier. The game flows in their direction, in the Niners' direction. And then the last stat I found, I went back and did this research myself for him. Last year, when the Niners said this is to show that Christian McCaffrey is more valuable than Brock Purdy to the team. Last year, when the Niners traded for Christian McCaffrey, they had Jimmy G for their quarterback for 6 games, I believe. Jimmy G had CMC as his run. When Jimmy G had CMC as his running back, he had 110.54 passer rating on average and only 1 loss. Want to guess what that 1 loss was? That 1 loss was Christian McCaffrey's first game as the Niners running back. So Jimmy G was doing really good with Christian McCaffrey there as well. He was doing very well with Christian McCaffrey as his running back as well. Christian McCaffrey is what makes that team go. And I have some stats back to the air yards, the money throws, receiver target separation, and game script. We're going to compare those just so you guys can see a good baseline where the other 2 QBs are. Dak Prescott in air yards per attempt. He's 17th. Money throws. He's first. And I can't believe I'm even defending Dak Prescott. But I'm going to for this. Game script, he's first. But first and second's not that big of a difference. That's the only category out of these he's higher than Brock Purdy in. Looking for the receiver target separation. Found that one. Receiver target separation. 45th in the NFL for receiver target separation. Compared to Brock Purdy, receivers who are 4th. That's a huge, drastic difference. And then we're going to compare Jalen Hurts. I don't think he can get the award anymore, but we're going to compare him just for baseline. Air yards per attempt for Jalen Hurts. 7th compared to 17 for Brock Purdy. Game script for Jalen Hurts. 10th compared to 2nd for Brock Purdy. Receiver target separation. 30th for Jalen Hurts compared to 4th for Brock Purdy. Then the last stat was money throws. Brock Purdy 17th. Hurts is 10th in money throws. And I'll even throw an accuracy rating. Hurts is 4th in accuracy rating. Brock Purdy is 13th in accuracy rating. And Dak Prescott is 5th in accuracy rating. In some of the advanced metrics, Brock Purdy's last in those advanced metrics, which show that out of all 3 QBs, shows that he's carried to a degree. Those stats I just rattled off show that he's been carried to a degree. Yes, is he a really good quarterback? Yes. I'm not taking that away from him at all. But he's not even the MVP of his own team. It's Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP of the NFL this year. But if it's not him, it should be Dak. Do I want it to be Dak? No. What I think it's going to be, because I don't see the Cowboys winning out. And they're not giving the MVP to a 5 seed. I think they're going to end up giving it to Brock Purdy, even though it shouldn't be him. I doubt it's going to be Jalen Hurts, even if the Eagles go 14-3 and the Niners lose to the Ravens, that's where this upset for this all comes in. I think I think the Ravens have a chance to win out, and if they win out and they beat the Niners, Lamar Jackson will be your 2023 NFL MVP. I think he's a dark horse to watch. Like if I had to place a bet on it right now, Lamar Jackson would probably be my bet because you would get probably the best odds on him out of the likely candidates. Lamar Jackson's my pick. Is my dark horse pick for MVP. I'm looking at FanDuel right now, pulling that up to verify like what his odds are. I think he's probably 5th on the list right now. Maybe even 4th after Tua losing. But Lamar Jackson's a dark horse for that award. If they wind up beating the Niners and winning out, Lamar Jackson could easily have a strong case for NFL MVP. He's actually looking at the list right now. The betting market has started to sway towards Lamar Jackson. Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy are tied at plus 150. Lamar Jackson's plus 600. He's making his way up there. People are starting to see. And Jalen Hurts is back down to plus 1,000. Now, I think Jalen Hurts will rise back up. That's why I'm waiting to cash out my MVP bet. If we win this week, Jalen Hurts will rise back up. If we lose, I can guess my $25 goodbye. If we win, I'll get some of that back and cash out and make a profit on that. But I think Brock Purdy is going to wind up getting it. But watch out for Lamar Jackson if the Ravens beat the Niners. Lamar Jackson will probably win a second MVP if that happens, with how the schedules are likely going to play out. To wrap up this episode, I just want to bring this up and talk about it to wrap this episode up. The Dodgers signing Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani has officially signed the largest contract in MLB history. 10 years, $700 million. That's insane. Utterly insane. The highest paid player in any sport ever. And he's going to get advertisements. It's insane. Now I wanted to bring this up as well to talk about it because the contract, there's actually a loophole that the Dodgers found that there's some debate about. Shohei Ohtani, the contract was deferred. The contract was deferred until the end of it. Most of it, $68 million a year is deferred until the end of the contract, and then he'll get the rest of it. So the Dodgers only are paying him $2 million a year for the next 10 years. That feels like cheating. That feels like cheating. Granted, they're allowed to. It's a loophole. They found a loophole. But that's insane that happens like that. That they can that they can do that and continue to build a great team around him after what you thought at first was $70 million a year. But no, they're only paying him $2 million a year until after the contract ends, and then they're paying him extra money. But that money is going to sit off to the side, and they're going to collect interest on it. So they're going to get paid to pay him, basically. Granted, they have to pay, I think, like $46 million due to like the tax rules for the MLB. But that's still insane. You're only having to pay like $46 million a year on Shohei Ohtani, the greatest baseball player of all time once he gets back to pitching. He is the greatest baseball talent of all time. They're going to build a super team, and it's going to be hard to beat them. Granted, baseball, anything can happen. You saw that this year, the Diamondbacks beating the Phillies. But that's neither here or there. The Dodgers are going to build a super team because of what was allowed, that loophole that they found. It's insane. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that. If you have a sports talk show or sports podcast, you almost have to talk about Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers, as that's one of the biggest sports stories out there right now. Before we wrap up on this episode, I want to let you all know to go check out the social medias: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. As later this week, I will be posting, as later today or later this week, I will be posting my Luke's list or Luke's lock and Luke's locks on all those platforms. So make sure to look out for those, and head over and visit my friend Dan the Man Stanley and look out for a brand new car or used car, as they can hook you up with one. Just let them know Luke Saranka and Uncaged Sports Talk sent you. Remember to tune in next week for episode 21, a Christmas edition. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our platforms. And that Christmas edition episode will be a fun episode. Hopefully, after an Eagles win, try to have at least 3 guests on, because you got the holiday season coming up. It'll be a festive time. Talk to you all next week. Tune in to Uncaged Sports Talk next Thursday.